Welcome to Horizon Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Saj Survey. My pronouns are he, him, his. I will be your worship associate and your song leader for this morning. I also serve Horizon as a member of the Horizon Players and on the Board of Trustees. We are excited to welcome you to our worship service this morning and are so glad to have you with us today, whether you're joining us in person or online, virtually, whether you're here for the first time or whether you've been here for longer than you can remember. Here at Horizon, we welcome people of all faiths or of no faith in particular. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your journey, you are welcome among us. Today is an all-ages service. The young and young at heart are encouraged to take part in service today. Childcare is also open, and children of any age may come and go between worship and childcare at any time during the service. As a community, we also welcome the sharing of joys, sorrows, and concerns. You're welcome to fill out a joys and sorrows slip. Those are available on the table at the Welcome Center, in the pockets behind your chairs, and also on the joys and sorrows table right here. You're also welcome to light a candle for any reason. These can be done at any time before the service or all the way up through the offertory. Today's worship leaders are our Director of Religious Education, Lauren Daniel, she, her, hers, members of our Horizon Players Troupe, and others from the congregation. Lauren is a longtime UU and before coming to Horizon, served on the Board of Trustees and as Religious Education Chair at other UU congregations. She's a big believer in the power of stories to inspire people of all ages. Lauren and husband Steve love good food and trying new dishes, although Steve is by far the better cook in the family. Her words, not mine. We have a couple of announcements this morning. Please be our guest for our Horizon's annual Bread and Soup Luncheon, which will be just across the way in Fellowship Hall immediately after service. Vegan and gluten-free choices are available. I'll also call your attention to your order of service. In there's an insert which advertises our yearly Thanksgiving potluck, which will happen this Thursday on Thanksgiving. There's a sign up in the lobby, or you can email the email address on the insert if you'd like to attend. You're welcome to walk in, but having a rough idea of how many are attending gives us some help with setting up. Also in there are notifications about Feed My Starving Children and the Horizon Holiday Party. That concludes the announcements.
Our call to worship this morning is from Reverend Rebecca Parker. You must answer this question: what will you do with your gifts? Choose to bless the world. The choice to bless the world is more than an act of will. It is an act of recognition, a confession of surprise, a grateful acknowledgement that in the midst of this broken world, unspeakable beauty, grace, and mystery abide. Come, let us worship together.
At this time, I would like to invite the Sutton family to light our chalice. Our chalice lighting this morning is from Michelle Collins. As we light this chalice with its freely shared light and freely shared warmth, let us be reminded of the many things that are shared with us and that we may share with others. May we lean into generosity shared from the heart that can warm those around us. Please join me in our affirmation, which is printed on the back of your order of service and also projected on the screen behind me. Love is the doctrine of our church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in harmony with the earth. Thus do we covenant together. I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join us in singing our opening hymn, hymn number 16 in the gray hymnal, "'Tis a Gift to Be Simple."
Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in a place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning we come round right.
Our first reading this morning is by an unknown author, and it is called The Parable of the Cookies. A young woman was waiting in the airport's departure area for her flight to visit family at Thanksgiving. The airport was crowded with holiday travelers, and there was bad weather on the East Coast, causing the crowds and tempers to swell. After hearing there was a delay, the woman decided to buy a small bag of chocolate chip cookies to enjoy while she waited.
She made her way to the VIP lounge, hoping to sit and relax for a while. Settling into a comfortable armchair, she opened her book and got ready to enjoy her cookies.
On the other side of the open seat sat a pleasant young man, also reading a book. The bag of cookies rested between them. Neither spoke, each minding their own business, or so she thought.
The young lady reached over and took her first cookie. She was just about to take a bite when, much to her surprise, the young man reached over and took a cookie as well.
He said nothing. She said nothing. But she was clearly annoyed. I mean, how dare she? How dare he, she thought. For each cookie she took, he took one too.
They sat in silence, their hands alternating into the cookie bag. Neither looked at the other, but her frustration grew with every bite.
This silent cookie-taking battle continued until only one cookie remained in the bag.
Then, with a calm smile, the young man took the last cookie and divided it in half. He left one half in the bag for her and took the other half for himself.
Well, that was it. She was absolutely furious. How could he be so rude and inconsiderate? She couldn't believe it.
Without a word, she packed up her things, moved across the lounge, and sat down, fuming over this stranger's lack of manners.
Soon her flight was called. She boarded the plane, took her seat, and settled in for the trip, still upset by what had happened.
Once she was seated, she reached into her purse, looking for something to snack on, and then she felt her heart sink.
There, Inside her purse was her own bag of cookies, unopened and untouched.
She sat frozen, her face flushing with shame. She realized that the cookies she had been eating, they weren't hers.
They were his. That young man had shared his cookies with her without saying a single word, even giving her half of his last cookie.
He hadn't shown a hint of anger or resentment. He'd given freely, without condition, and with a quiet kindness she had not noticed until now.
She felt a wave of regret and embarrassment. She'd been so quick to judge him, so sure of her own assumptions, that she hadn't even stopped to consider his generosity.
But it was too late. The young man was nowhere to be found. She couldn't apologize or thank him for his kindness.
And so she sat quietly in her seat, thinking about the young man who had shared his cookies and taught her a lesson on kindness. As we gather today to celebrate Thanksgiving, let's open our hearts and hands and share our blessings with others by giving generously to the mission of this church. Thank you to our members and friends who give and pledge electronically. If you would like to give electronically, you may do so on the Breeze app or online at horizonuu.org/donate, which the QR code up on the screen also links to. The offering will now be joyfully given and received. Thank you for your generosity.
How good and pleasant it is for people to dwell together.
Let's set the scene for our story. We have Lisa, her mom, here in the kitchen. You believe Emma? Got Emma. If everyone's ready, let's begin. Emma slouched into the kitchen, her backpack dragging on the floor like a sack of bricks. Her mom, Lisa, glanced up from chopping vegetables, instantly spotting the storm brewing on Emma's face.
What's wrong, kiddo? You look like you just got assigned homework for the entire fall break.
Emma dropped her bag with a dramatic thud, and her face fell. It's Sophie. She's the worst.
Lisa set down her knife and leaned on the counter. Whoa, that's a strong statement, she said. Tell me what happened.
Emma crossed her arms. First, Sophie told everyone at recess that I still sleep with Mr. Snuggles, and she promised she wouldn't.
And she said she didn't want to sit with me at lunch because I chew too loud. And when I tried to talk to her, she just ignored me.
Lisa nodded sympathetically. Ouch, that's a tough day. Sounds like you've got some friendship worries bubbling over.
Emma groaned and shrugged. I don't even know what to do anymore.
Lisa tapped her chin, a mischievous glint in her eye. I think I know just the thing. We're going to make comfort soup together.
Emma raised an eyebrow. Comfort soup? Is this a weird mom thing?
Lisa laughed. Actually, it's a very sophisticated technique, Lisa said, pulling out a large pot and setting it on the stovetop. We're going to put all your worries into this pot, cook them down, and figure out how to deal with them. Trust me, it works.
Emma's curiosity got the better of her. Okay, but this better not be like that time you tried to fix my spelling by making me write with pudding.
Lisa said, first we need to make the soup base. We need to start by getting all these feelings out of our systems and out in the open so we can think clearly. We need to yell into the soup pot.
Yell into the soup pot? Exclaimed Emma in disbelief.
Yes, her mom answered. Just get all those feelings out. Here, I'll show you. And she leaned over the pot and let out a ah, which echoed off the sides of the pot and through the kitchen.
Emma laughed and said, hey, let me try. And she let out a long bellow into the pot. Ah!
They both giggled, but after a moment, Emma's grin faded.
Emma admitted, that was fun, but I still feel bad.
Well, yes, we've only just begun, Lisa promised. Let's start with Sophie sharing your Mr. Snuggles secret. What can we add to the pot for that?
Emma thought for a moment, then went to the pantry. She grabbed a bag of jelly beans from the pantry. These, because she spilled my secrets like beans, and they're colorful like her fake niceness.
Lisa stifled a laugh. Perfect. Perfectly said. In they go.
Emma dumped the jelly beans into the pot.
Lisa gave the pot a dramatic stir. So here's the thing about secret spilling. It's okay to feel hurt, but it's also okay to remind your friends about boundaries. Maybe next time you can calmly tell Sophie how important it is to keep promises.
Emma shrugged. I guess. But what if she does it again?
That's when you decide if she's someone you can trust, Lisa said. Friendship is like jelly beans. Some flavors are great and some taste like toothpaste. You don't have to eat them all.
Emma giggled. Fair point. What about the lunch thing? That was so mean.
Lisa tilted her head. What represents loud chewing?
Emma scanned the kitchen cupboard and grabbed a bag of popcorn. This, she exclaimed, the popcorn, because it's crunchy and noisy like Sophie says I am.
Excellent choice, Lisa. Toss it in.
Emma poured the popcorn into the pot.
So here's the deal, Lisa said. Sometimes people criticize things about us that don't really matter. Chewing sounds? Not a big deal. Next time you can remind Sophie that friends focus on the important stuff, not the silly stuff.
But What if she still doesn't want to sit with me? Emma asked.
Lisa smiled. Then maybe you sit with someone else who appreciates your crunchtastic charm. There's always someone who will value you for exactly who you are.
Emma nodded slowly. Okay, but what about the ignoring thing? That was the worst part.
Lisa leaned in. Yes, I imagine it was. What can we do for an ad for feeling ignored?
Emma looked around the kitchen and pulled out her mom's bullhorn from where she worked at the Department of Safety. Emma exclaimed while holding up a conical red and white device, "This," because I felt like I needed a bullhorn to get her attention.
Lisa laughed. Perfect. Into the soup it goes.
Emma dropped the bullhorn into the pot with a clatter.
Lisa gave the pot an exaggerated stir. Sometimes friends get distracted or caught up in their own stuff. It doesn't mean they don't care, but it's okay to remind them that you're there. And if they still don't pay attention and listen, that's their loss, not yours.
Emma sighed. I guess I could try talking to her again tomorrow, but what if she's still mean?
Lisa smiled and found the shaker of rainbow sprinkles on the shelves. That's why we add this, a sprinkle of hope. It reminds us that not all days or friendships are bad. What's something you like about Sophie?
Emma hesitated. Well, she's really good at making up funny stories.
See, there's still something good there, Lisa said, sprinkling the imaginary soup. Friendships can be messy, but they're worth trying to fix if you feel they're important to you.
Emma made a face and asked, "So, are we actually going to eat this?"
Lisa grinned. Comfort soup isn't for eating, it's for thinking. But we can make some real soup if you're hungry.
Lisa brought out a knife for Emma as they chopped more vegetables for the real soup and talked more about school. Emma felt a little lighter. By the time dinner was ready, she had a plan to talk to Sophie and maybe move on and sit with someone new if things didn't go well. Taking a deep breath, Emma realized that sometimes small steps in the kitchen could lead to bigger steps in life. But she still thought about that bullhorn.
Now let's give our actors a round of applause.
From all that dwell below the skies, let songs of hope and faith arise. Let peace, goodwill on earth be sung through every land by every tongue.
Now we will take time to honor the joys and sorrows of this community, knowing that we are all connected and that what affects one affects us all. There's many sorrows in this, in our bowl today. It has to do with former member Elaine Belcher, who was a friend to many, many people in this congregation. Elaine passed away on Friday evening, and we know that she will be very, very missed. And so you can learn more details from her many, many friends here at Horizon. I also want to remind us that November 20th was the Transgender Day of Remembrance, when we remember trans people who have died or have been affected by violence against trans people. On a more positive note, I'm happy to say that we're wonderful having new musicians here today, and for the great crowd, and for our intergenerational crowd today. And we will light one last candle for all those joys and sorrows that reside only in our hearts and go unspoken. Please join me in the spirit of prayer and meditation in whatever way feels right for you. Afterwards, we will have a space of silence, which will be followed by our responsive hymn, 299 in the gray hymnal, Make Channels for the Streams of Love. Let's start with a short prayer. Spirit of love and life, we are here because we believe what we do matters. We are here because we believe how we live our life matters, that every act of kindness or meanness, courage or fear, love or hate, we are weaving the fabric of the universe that holds us. We are here because we need encouragement, because we need strength, because so often we get distracted. We get in a rush, we don't think, we choose the easy way when the harder path is what our spirits truly long for. We are here because none of us is perfect, but together we inspire one another to try again, to take another step. We are here because how we live matters. Please join me in a moment of silence.
Make channels for the streams of love where they may broadly run, and love has overflowing streams to fill them every one. But if at any time we seize such channels to provide, the very fount of love for us will soon be parched and dried. For we must share if we would keep this gift all else above. We cease to give, we cease to have, such is the law of love.
The most marvelous loaves. We need Grandma Helen, and we need Reverend Kate, and eventually Joe. Helen Hansen was a member of Reading Unitarian Universalist Church. She was one of those beloved elders that everyone seemed to know and respect. You know the type, always willing to lend a hand or offer a listening ear. Helen greeted kids and adults alike by name each week. One little guy had started calling her Grandma Helen at church about a zillion years ago, and the name just stuck.
In addition to her kindness, Grandma Helen was known for her baking. She baked delicious treats for just about every church event. Whenever she was asked about a recipe, Grandma Helen would chuckle and say, the secret ingredient is love.
And Reverend Kate will come to the chancel now. It is no surprise that Reverend Kate came up to Grandma Helen and was asked to contribute to the first ever Thanksgiving bread communion at the church. What was surprising was that Helen offered to make enough of her most marvelous bread for the whole congregation to share. Reverend Kate pulled out her phone and sent an email to make sure that an announcement appeared in the church newsletter and that people read it, and everyone marked the date on their calendars.
In this scene, we will need Grandma Helen in the kitchen and Reverend Kate. Right? Grandma Helen had been baking in the church kitchen for hours when Thanksgiving rolled around and the congregation began to gather. The deep, yeasty fragrance of the bread permeated the building. The congregation began to look at each other with anticipation. The service began, and Reverend Kate took her place in front of the congregation. In her sermon, she spoke of bread, the ingredients, the process, the texture. She spoke of abundance and ritual, heritage and gratitude. And finally, it was time for the bread communion ritual. Reverend Kate beckoned to the back of the sanctuary, and Grandma Helen brought forth one singular, beautiful loaf.
Aaron, a 9-year-old who was new to the congregation, was sitting in the front pew. And when Grandma Helen came forward with just that one loaf, they couldn't help but pipe up. How is that person going to feed all of us here with just one loaf of bread?
Some of the other folks in the pews started looking around and realized that there was no more bread coming. There were over 100 people in that room, and the growling of stomachs was audible. Grandma Helen smiled as she took out the bread knife and began to slice. It was an amazing thing that happened then. Before their very eyes, the bread went sproing, and the loaf began to multiply. Instead of one loaf, within seconds there were 20.
It's a miracle, someone called out.
Grandma Helen replied, "Nah, nothing as grand as that. It's a sound mathematical principle."
Reverend Kate then went to the pulpit, found the basket, and filled it with pieces of the marvelous bread. She began to send it around. Well, it didn't really matter what kind of bread it was once everyone began eating it, because it was truly the most delicious, melt-in-your-mouth bread that anyone in the whole congregation had ever tasted. As congregants took the bread, they exclaimed how delicious it was. There were many oohs and ahs. What a service it was. Afterwards, people happily joined in on coffee hour and sought out Grandma Helen.
Grandma Helen was approached by one member after another during coffee hour, thanking her for the scrumptious offering. She was having a wonderful time. Then Jerry, the youth director, approached Grandma Helen, and he had a special favor to ask. The youth group had been helping out at the local soup kitchen every Saturday at noon and were constantly running out of food to serve. There were just too many hungry people in the area.
The youth director asked, "Helen, can you do that trick with the bread anytime you want?"
Helen replied, "It really isn't a trick, Jerry. It's math and some physics thrown in for good measure. But sure, I can do it again."
They made a deal. Grandma Helen would join the youth group at the soup kitchen the following weekend.
Saturday came, and they all met up at the soup kitchen. As you can imagine, Grandma Helen's bread was quite a hit. With so many hungry people, the loaves kept multiplying until every person was full and satisfied. Well, something like that just doesn't stay a secret for long, and sure enough, someone took a video of Grandma Helen with their phone and posted it to social media, and the video of this bread went viral.
How could Grandma Helen know that at that very moment, someone named Joe was watching TikTok and saw the marvelous loaf of bread multiplying on his For You page? Joe had a reputation for get-rich-quick schemes, which made people very wary of him.
Now, watching the video of Grandma Helen's amazing bread multiply at the soup kitchen, he figured he had a foolproof plan. He could sell loaf after loaf of bread, and it would never stop coming. Rubbing his hands together and smiling to himself, he thought, all I need is that first loaf.
Now, Joe goes to Grandma Helen's house where she is baking. He was there within the hour, and he knew she was baking, and he confronted the beloved figure. He began speaking quickly. Helen listened as Joe first offered, then bargained, then threatened, trying to get her to sell one of her loaves of bread.
Grandma Helen said while throwing up her hands, "You don't seem to understand. It won't work for you. The math just does not compute in the wrong person's hands."
Now, Joe wasn't one to take no for an answer. He quickly pushed past Helen, stomped into the kitchen, nabbed a freshly baked loaf of bread that was cooling on top of the oven, and gleefully ran out the back door. He jumped in his car, sped home, all the while thinking about how rich he was going to be.
Once in his own kitchen, Joe took out a knife and set to work slicing the bread. He maniacally sawed across the crust, and sure enough, an amazing thing happened. The bread went spring.
But instead of multiplying, the loaf started dividing. It divided into smaller and smaller pieces until there were just crumbs. And then even the crumbs divided until there was nothing left at all. Joe began to sob. His plan was foiled.
Grandma Helen had indeed known the true secret of the bread. And indeed, there was a mathematical principle at play. It is a simple truth. Love multiplies, hatred divides.
So, the next time you plan to make bread for someone, be sure to remember what Grandma Helen says about baking. The secret ingredient is love, and love makes all the difference.
Can our actors please stand? Let's give them a round of applause.
I am going to shorten my homily a little bit just for the interest of time, but I think the stories teach all the lessons we need. I'm just going to quickly go through some things. Last Sunday in the hall, people learned I was going to lead worship, and someone asked what today's worship service was about, and I answered, repairing relationships. The monthly theme is repair after all. And that prompted quite the discussion in the hall about the upcoming Thanksgiving holiday, ranging from, it's your family, you can't let politics get between you and your family, and then just cut them off. I mean, really, it was a very animated discussion. And I feel like so many of us in this country now are on edge. We are almost like a powder keg. And we are in the full swing of the holidays, and we might be facing loved ones who back the other candidate or had perennially voiced opinions at family gatherings that we didn't always agree with. We might be feeling a little down or angry, ready to snap at that outspoken uncle. What do? Do we just not go? How do we repair these relationships when there's so much tension? And my answer to you is this: you got this. Horizon and our Unitarian Universalist faith have prepared you to live in these troubled times and navigate messy relationships around the holiday table. If you look at our shared values, the tenets of our faith displayed behind me, you can see that all we do is centered in love. Now, as you know, love can take many forms. For instance, romantic, platonic, familial, but love can be unconditional, but that doesn't mean anything goes. Do you know how it is when someone does something and you still love them, but you maybe don't like them? That is unconditional love, and love is the balm that soothes the difference between us. Love has a way of diffusing tension and anxiety, and love has a way of spreading and setting the tone for a family dinner. In the last story, the church elders spoke the truth. Love multiplies and hate/negativity divides. But love doesn't mean do what you want and I'll forgive you. It certainly does not mean turn the other cheek. We, Unitarian Universalists and Horizon, we are a covenantal community. We have agreed upon behaviors we will abide by together as a community. It's the glue that holds our community together, not doctrine. By the way, our covenant is displayed in the lobby right by the gong if you would like to take a look at our covenant. We know how to be in relationship with others. We know boundaries. We know how to live within them and how to hold others accountable when they cross them. And do you know what love plus boundaries is? Kindness. In the second story, Emma talks about Sophie, the classmate they are having trouble with at school. And they pour the jelly beans into the soup pot saying, Sophie has fake niceness. The words kind and nice were used interchangeably in that story, but they're different. Just as a reminder, kindness is more than being nice. Kindness comes from within. It's authentic, it's grounded in a person's values, and you center other people. Whereas niceness comes from a place of wanting to be liked, to gain favor, and it's actually self-centered. Being nice is easy and is used to manipulate, where kindness is an intentional way of being in the world. Kindness is a choice to practice empathy, connection, and generosity to meet the needs of another. It's the conscious decision to share your cookies. So there, up on the screen, there are some ways that perhaps if you choose, you could go ahead and have that covenantal discussion with a family member. Ideally, it should be one-on-one. Joan Tuponce, a family counseling specialist, in an article written for VCU Health, outlines the steps. Remind the person that you believe they care for you and didn't intend to hurt you. Let them know that what they said was hurtful. Point out the fact that you don't really understand what's going inside their head, so can you please explain it to me? Ask the person what led them to say what they did to you or what they said. And once they've expressed themselves, repeat back what you think they said. You may have to try again to get it right. This lets the other person know they're being heard. And since boundaries are integral to kindness, kindness can sometimes come with a cost as opposed to niceness. If that outspoken uncle continues to discuss hot button topics after being asked to stop, you will have to enforce your boundaries and decide. Decide to stay silent, decide to change the topic, decide to move to a different room, or decide to leave even. Please recall boundaries are for you, not others, and only you can control your actions and reactions when your boundaries are crossed. You cannot control others, try as we might. So the key is remembering boundaries help us stay in relationship rather than just cutting people off. But only you can decide if a relationship is worth keeping. Maybe you look for the person's positive traits, or maybe it's time to sit with the kids at the other table. But whatever you decide this holiday season, please keep sharing those cookies. May it be so, and amen. The breaking of bread is an ancient ritual of community and memory celebrated in many different traditions and many different ways.
Today, as we approach the American celebration of Thanksgiving, we break bread together to celebrate the abundance of the harvest, the hard work of all who make our lives possible, and the community that gathers here to worship together.
These loaves that we have in the back were baked with love, abundant love, love that multiplies all that is around it.
This bread is broken in the sacred space of this worship service and shared in this community with love.
The ushers will momentarily bring around baskets. And as you pass your basket to the person after you've chosen your bread, we invite you to turn to them and say, "I offer you this bread of community." When you have chosen your bread, please wait until all have been served and we will eat together. Please raise your hand if you require gluten-free bread. At this time, will our ushers please pass around the baskets? All right. So, would you hold your bread in front of you? As we eat our bread, let us think of those things for which we are grateful, and of moving mindfully through the upcoming holidays with grace and kindness. With thankfulness, let us eat.
We extinguish this flame, but not our commitment to welcome radically, love boldly, grow spiritually, and serve courageously. This we do because we envision a beloved community filled with compassion, helping all to thrive in a just world. I would like to invite you to rise in body or spirit and join us in singing verses 1 and 3 of our closing hymn, hymn number 1014 in the teal hymnal, Answering the Call of Love. If you have the hymnal open, the words have been changed on this hymn, so it may say different words in your hymnal. The words on the screen here are correct.
The promise of the Spirit, faith, hope, and love abide, and so every soul is blessed and made whole. The truth in our heart is our guide. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one. Emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim we are answering the call of love. A bright new day is dawning when love will not divide. Reflections of grace in every embrace, fulfilling the vision divine. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one. Emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim we are answering the call of love. Answering the call of love.
Please join hands. Please join hands if you would care to. Let us join our hands and hearts in gratitude on this wondrous day, where we have the abundance of our lives before us. For all that is our lives, for these good gifts, we offer our gratitude. May gratitude for our abundance move us to act with compassion and kindness towards others in the days to come. May it be so, and amen. Go in peace.